Here's Andy.
And the public commenters are in the waiting room. So,
Jonathan, Molly asked if when it gets to the portion to present, if she could share her screen during that time.
yeah, she should be good.
Just to let you know in advance.
Okay, thank you for that.
Didn't really want it out, but I guess at least that's what somebody from his office called and told me today. But at any rate, I've got a chance to go through it, and it was fascinating. As someone who covered that period and has covered politics all these years since.
Well, when you say there's a sort of continuity, so at the word, the Willie Horton ad, I think is one of the things he's most associated with, of course, in that 1988 campaign against George W. Bush running a caucus, but more broadly, a way of channeling a certain kind of white fear, white backlash politics to sort of win over voters, to stir a certain kind of emotional intensity in particularly white voters, and using that as sort of basis for Republican campaigning. What do you see in sort of that?
Basically, what's interesting is what you see is that in Howard, he was willing to do anything to win. I mean, he would whatever it took. I mean, and he revels in it. So he talks about and he laughs about how he was lying and made up his candidates' credentials, and they made up a fake poll, and everybody fell for it, and they made up a platform of total lies that they were going to deliver on that he knew they weren't going to. It was sort of a big, dirty trick from the start, and I think what is interesting is how do we go through where it's like that? Something a guy expelled from school and were considered a scandal during the Nixon era when there were dirty tricks, to the point where in Trump, they've been normalized. I mean, this is just sort of how the game is played now. I really see Outwater to Bridge there. He was the guy who made it okay. And then you see with Trump, particularly no respect for the truth, no respect for running for office or for being in office. At one point in this memoir, he just blurts out, he says, I'm really proud of the fact that I know that running for office is BS. He says it more clearly in the papers, and that being in office is even more BS. I mean, there was no respect for governing in this. This was just about getting power, basically, and doing whatever it took to get there.
Yeah, there's a really depth of cynicism at play there, and I think Roger Stone too. Bridge, you have to show that picture. Stone is notorious. Right? You have the tattoo. It's one thing about Roger Stone. She shows he ends up that's an accident when you talk about that continuity.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's an interesting difference between Stone in some ways and Outwater. Outwater was from the South. I grew up in South Carolina. And so playing the race card was really something that he did. In Philadelphia, the town where pre-civil rights workers were notoriously murdered, and everyone saw that symbolism, and they knew it was a blood visit to the white voters there. And so Outwater really he played racial politics much more in a way.
Barb, is that your new computer?
Northeast, he plays sort of more about ethnic politics,
Yeah.
more, but they're both polarizing people and doing whatever it takes, and they become the dominant forces in the Republican Party.
This day,
This is Lorraine. I can see all you, but don't see my own screen view. Can you see me?
Lorraine, we can hear you, but you're showing a green screen, like your camera may not work. If you look at the camera icon in the bottom left corner, there should be a little arrow.
I see my screen now. It wasn't there before. I'll mask it when my item is up.
Okay,
Thank you, John.
Barb, is that your new computer over there?
Already going on the record late today, in advance of that CDC meeting, saying, you know, the clinical trial data on Pfizer.
You're muted.
That kids 12 to 15 are fine to take the Pfizer vaccine. What it means, bottom line.
It's my teeny little computer.
Ah.
14.
Everyone, the executive session that preceded this meeting is running a little behind. We will have them as soon as we have them. I'm hoping near or you know, in the near future here.
Vaccinated kids in schools, in sports, in, you know.
Oh, there's Bob.
Being able to be together in multi-generational ways without worrying that an unvaccinated kid might unknowingly have an unsymptomatic case of COVID and might infect grandma or grandpa to devastating effect, or a relative can't be vaccinated for some reason.
Yes, I hope I'm not the last one.
You're the first one.
Oh, I sure didn't expect that. Oh, this is Mike Davenport. I haven't actually seen you before. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Oh, phooey.
You should do that a lot.
Jan. Yeah. Darn it. Oh, geez. If you join, I'm already joined. Jonathan, I assume the executive session went right up to 7 o'clock and they're taking a quick break.
It was a loaded session. I think there are 4 items on the agenda. So Andy just emailed me and told me they're a little behind, and I have not heard anything since. That was about 7:01. So
In session then. Okay. Finish my dessert in that case.
You should never stop a person from eating dessert. I think that's cute.
Dessert's got to come before politics, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They kept going off for more than an hour and a half. They were off for 95 straight minutes with no break. Thousands and thousands of people in Dallas called 911. Trying to figure out what was going on. On a night when there was no bad weather, the tornado sirens didn't quit. Did this mean there was some other kind of attack happening? The Dallas commission believed that it was some kind of malfunction.
So John, is it going to snow there tomorrow?
They were calling for up to 16 inches of snow around the city.
How many?
Like 16 inches.
Oh,
It snowed
geez.
most of the day though, and there was no sticking happening. So typical Idaho Springs. Well, not typical, but typical May in Idaho Springs.
Meanwhile, I'm in rainy Cape Cod where the sun never comes out and it never gets above 59 degrees.
Consistency is important.
That's right.
You know, it was snowing hard enough here this morning that I think if it hadn't melted, we would have had a good foot of snow, probably. We have a lot of moisture.
I have a friend who just became the town manager of Truro on Cape Cod out there.
Oh, I would love to go out there. I'm in the Upper Cape.
He's
But
been there, I
maybe
think,
if
about
we-
3 months or so.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. It's a very segregated, you know, they're the people that are the worker bees, and then they're the people that come down here from Boston and New York that expect everybody to make their lives wonderful. The economy here is just going to change a lot because of COVID. I mean, I have a neighbor next to my parents' house here, and he's a contractor, and he commutes from Katomet up to Harvard Medical Center. He's a union contractor every day.
Wow. I haven't done that, but it sounds like I know it's a relatively long drive that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an hour and 15 minutes and not great traffic and even worse drivers.
All right, everyone, they're coming in now. Hello, Carmen and Council, and John Bordoni.
I think we have everybody. Let's see if I've missed somebody.
Jim didn't come in yet.
I haven't seen Art yet.
Art's here, Jim's not.
Jim's not. All right, we'll wait just another second.
He's coming in now.
All right, thanks, John. Still waiting on Jim.
He's here, but his video is off at the moment.
I'll give him just another minute.
I'm up.
There he is.
There he is. All right. Sorry, we're running a little bit late tonight. Everybody that's on our meeting. It is May 10th, 2021. This is the City Council of Idaho Springs regular meeting. Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman. Michael Hillman.
Here. Can you not hear me? Here.
I didn't the first time. Scott Pennell.
Here.
Chuck Harmon.
Here.
Bob Bolin.
Here.
John Curtis.
He's here. His internet went down for a second, but he's here.
Okay. Art Cacavelli.
Here.
Jim Clark.
Yeah.
All right. Please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
To the
and the republic for which it stands,
for
one
nation,
God,
under God, indivisible,
liberty,
liberty,
and justice for
happiness for all. Amen. God bless. Play ball.
Please be seated. We have an agenda in front of us tonight. We are on our ordinance second readings. We are going to table ordinance number 7 to July 12th. And we're also going to table ordinance number 5 to the same date, July 12th. So we won't have any ordinance second readings tonight. And also with that, I think that's all the amendments to the agenda. Can I get a motion with the amendments, please?
Mayor, I just had one, a very minor one on resolution number 8, series 2020. Very minor, but where it says, whereas Blue Spruce Habitat for Humanity, the address is 1628, and somehow there's just an extra 9 put in there. It says 1628-9.
Okay. All right, thanks for that, Chuck.
But I would move that we approve the agenda as amended.
And do I have a second?
Second.
And discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Does anybody feel we have a conflict of interest tonight with our agenda?
I do, Mayor.
Okay,
On the bills, yes, sir. For Allied Towing.
okay. So we will do a normal bill approvals, one with and one without, Allied by itself, one with all except Allied and then Allied by itself. All right, thank you, Jim. And we
Thank
will
you.
approve the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from April 26th, 2021.
And do I have a second?
I second.
Discussion. All right, hearing none. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will move down to the bills. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the bills to May 10th, 2021, excluding Allied Towing.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All right, discussion. I've actually got a couple tonight. All right, you want to go first?
I'll let you go first, Mayor.
Gotta find it first. Let's see. Equipment Company of the Rockies, $980. Dirt shoes. Who is that?
Mayor, that would be mine. That's actually dirt guides that go on the bottom of the sweeper. They call them shoes that contain the dirt under the sweeper.
Okay, well, I think it was a good question. I was gonna say, what can I, yeah, who makes these shoes? Okay, another one is an invoice for $843 just below that one. Enforcer 60,000.
What page?
That is on page 6. Almost to the bottom.
That's the PD department.
Chief, do you know what that's for?
Mayor, right offhand, I do not know what that one's for. I don't have the packet in front of me. So I can certainly research that and figure that out and notify you.
Okay.
I do see all the bills, so I just don't right offhand know what that's for.
Okay. I think we probably should exclude this till we get verification.
Okay.
Is council okay with approving this with the contingent upon me getting finding out exactly what that's for? If council's okay with that, we can move forward with it that way. Everybody's good with that? Okay, and then Hayes, right below that, another one, $1,365.14. Hayes Posnovic Corver, LLC. Does anybody know what that is?
Mayor, that would be David Hayes, our city water attorney.
Did they change their firm or something?
Yes, they did. They changed the name of their firm.
Okay, all right. And down on page 7, John Kane, Hosted Solutions. Is that $11,000? Is that the a CARES grant that we got that's going to pay for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Art?
Mayor, I'm so proud of you. You took one of mine away, but that's okay. This is good. Page 3, second item down, Willie Pickett deductible for $2,500.
So one of our public works workers got injured on the job, fell off a ladder, and he had to have some surgery. So I'm sure this is our serious deductible for that medical bill.
Okay. How's he doing?
John?
He's doing well. He had surgery on his left shoulder to repair a rotator cuff, and he'll be off for a period of time, but he's doing well.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any more? All right, can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Herman,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion for the allied bill, please?
I'll move to approve the bill for Allied Towing dated May 10th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion is second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Herman,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Jim doesn't vote.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, we will move down to scheduled public comment. We have 2 signed up for tonight, and we'll start with Samantha Dine from the West District. Samantha?
Hey everyone. So thanks for having me here this evening. As Mike said, I'm here on behalf of the Rec Center. And so tonight we'd like to ask that the special event permit fee be waived for our Poses and Pints program. This is a program we started last year where participants do an hour of yoga outdoors and then go to a local brewery or bar for appetizers and drinks while being socially distanced. For the evenings that this program is in Idaho Springs for this summer, we would like to use the green space by City Hall and therefore have completed a special event permit. So as I mentioned, we'd like to ask that the fee be waived due to the fact that all of our programs continue to be uncertain due to COVID. And as a rule, we are really trying right now to minimize all our upfront costs that are associated with all of our programs. In addition, because the event is outside, we also have the weather to contend with. And last year we had to cancel a couple times due to the rain. So we don't make a whole lot of money on these events. And honestly, after covering our instructor fees, my time in creating and advertising the program, we honestly just kind of hope to break even on them. So Diane had mentioned that maybe we could just do a flat rate of $100 for the summer of the events, but I just wanted to see if City Council would consider waiving the fee in its entirety.
Diane, that fee is $100?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Daily.
I'm sorry, say it again.
$100 a day.
Oh, it's $100 a day?
Yes, sir.
Ooh. When is this event, Sam?
We will be starting it. We're hoping to do our first one on the 19th of this month. And right now with the dates I have, we'd have 8 to 10 of them in Idaho Springs over the summertime. And it's really just an hour on the grass outside City Hall. We could do a deposit if we needed to, but there wouldn't be any additional stress, I don't think, on bathrooms or anything like that.
We could go ahead, and they're asking for action tonight. Council, how do you feel waiving this fee for the rec district?
Well, I'm certainly inclined to vote for waiving the fee. I think there's no question it helps our community in a lot of different ways. So I have no problem with it at all.
Any other comments, council?
I'm going to agree with that, and for the same reasons. It's a good outside activity, and I think folks of all ages can get involved and feel good about it.
I'm inclined to say the same. I don't know about setting a precedent for any future or anybody else. I don't know if we're doing that. That would be my concern.
I agree with Scott. But yes, I do agree with the wave too, so.
I don't know. I'd like to see them put down a deposit in case there's any damage.
I believe that, I think, if I read it right, I think that be happy to pay a deposit, but given the uncertainty of the time, hesitant to pay money up front. So you're saying this would be 8 days through the summertime, Sam?
We have at least, it would be about 8 to 10 times. And if that is,
Diane, do we usually take a damage deposit?
Yes, sir.
And what is that damage deposit?
$100.
Okay, and it's refundable, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, John, I agree. I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm still thinking on this. Anybody else want to speak on it? The precedence thing, I'm trying to think of other events that maybe ask me the same thing.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm clearly not a decision maker. I'm not here to express any opinion about whether or not you should or shouldn't. I will say and offer to you and council that if you, as a general matter, wish to periodically consider requests like this to forgive fees in whole or in part, setting up some guidelines is something that is a good idea for what Councilor Pennell and others have expressed in terms of, having some clear guidelines about when, as a policy perspective, you want to allow those kinds of fee waivers. And I'm happy to assist with that. I've done that in other places. And for instance, maybe a certain percentage of reduction I've seen offered in jurisdictions for fees for events for nonprofits or registered 501c3s or local organizations, a different tier of maybe fee waiver or forgiveness for other kinds of events, but that somehow have a sort of demonstrably public benefit, right? Rather than just a profit-making event or something. Again, this is something that we can work on as a general matter for you in future circumstances. And on this one, you can do your best to articulate the reasons why, if you wish to grant this fee waiver, the reasons why you're doing so, and for what sort of public policy purpose. And we can work on sort of a general policy as well.
Thank you, Carmen. Some more input from council.
Maybe we could split it. If you're having a hard time, maybe we could split it, cut it in half. $50 a day.
Can I maybe give you, I don't know how much I know about it, but one of the reasons we felt it was fair to offset this fee be waived is that we do not see it's costing the city any money. We're not asking for any streets to be closed down. We're not asking for any traffic officers. There's no liquor license, obviously. I really just want your little grass area under the aspens, which is a great place to do yoga. We'll be out there for an hour. There'll be no trash. We're just doing the event permit because that's the right thing to do. It's your property, but that's the only thing besides a little bit of the paperwork, which maybe Wanda and Diane will disagree with me, and it's more than a little bit of paperwork, but that's all we're asking for. I don't think the city has to provide anything else, if that makes a difference.
The only problem is, Sam, is we've got other nonprofits that are going to want to have events on their own property that we're going to charge them. special events.
And for the rec center, I don't know if it matters. It's a program for us. It's not actually a special event. I don't know if that really matters to you, but yeah.
We have any
That's on our
liability?
property.
Do we have any liability if one of these people twists their ankle or?
Yep, we've added the cities on our insurance. You're a named insurer.
Waiver?
And to clarify, Mayor, a special event permit that's not alcohol related, just to have an event on city property is one thing, and the special event permit to have a liquor related special event on private property is another issue, right? And I think we're in that first category with permission to use public property. And I think, for what it's worth, it would be a defensible reason to waive or reduce fees is indeed, if true, a factual finding that an applicant is not going to cause cost to the city, like traffic closures. If indeed a proposed event is not going to cause the city to incur expenses, that would be a defensible reason to reduce fees, I think.
All right, council, reduce fees or just waive?
Reduce.
I feel waive this year with the additional part of the motion to form guidelines for future events.
Anybody else?
I think Art brought up a really, really good point. So in obviously the rec district can provide the city with a copy of, like, I would assume it's an accord certificate. Sam, if I'm not mistaken, with the city has a loss paying on your coverage.
Yep, we've already sent it.
That's a requirement for every special event permit on public property.
Okay. Okay.
I'm for a fee waive and $100 damage deposit, only because it's not going to cost the city anything. And I feel if we have $100 damage deposit, as Jen brought up, we should be covered if some grass is damaged or trash is left behind.
I'll vote to waive the fees, and main reason for that is the year that the rec center's gone through has been a hardship on them. Also, I think that Carmen could adopt something like she's talking about that will keep us in graces going forward.
Yeah, I think recovery from the pandemic, any activity, I think could be included in that. And that really makes the timing of this, I think, unusual enough that we can justify waiving the fee this year, as long as we have future guidelines.
I'm on board. So we will.
Maybe we can sell some tickets as a demonstration and make up our $100. Just kidding.
Art, we're going to get you out there to do yoga, and that.
Oh yeah, they're going to have to pay a lot of money to see that. Trust me.
I'll pay.
Out there for you. Okay. I think everybody agree we will waive the fees this year, so you could do that event on the city lot.
All right, thank you all so much.
All right, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Okay, next up.
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, just procedurally, are you going to vote on that like at the next, when are you going to actually formally take action on that fee waiver?
I guess we could do it now.
Okay.
Motion.
It's not on the agenda.
Right. Yeah.
But Carmen says we could take action on this if necessary.
You can take some, if you don't make it a regular occurrence, you can take some action on things that aren't expected. Either that or on the next regular meeting when it could be noticed up as an action item, whichever you want. But do take a formal vote on it, please. So I'm not sure when it's needed by.
Well, our next regular meeting won't be until May 24th.
Okay, and the first occurrence, or
Diane,
do you need that fee waiver to happen before the next meeting?
Not necessarily.
Okay, well then just put it on the 24th.
Okay,
will do.
Do that. We've already made the commitment to waiving that fee. So
yeah. they could rely on that, I think, Mayor. Okay.
All right. Next, we have Carla Cole and Kelly Flanagan under public comment.
Hi, my name is Kelly Clinton. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am representing the Clear Creek School District, School Board District C, and wanted to just briefly comment about the Block 57 redevelopment process. First, I really wanted to thank the mayor and the staff. After we spoke at our last meeting and requested time together with city representatives, school district representatives, and the developer, we've been able to, I think, have some pretty productive meetings. So I really do appreciate the time granted for that and allowing us to all really get back on the same page. I know that you see in the materials that the applicant has withdrawn their kind of pre-app information so that we could have more open communication and things aren't getting as lost. This is a complex project, as I know that you all understand. And so the ability to really speak with our stakeholders and with you all is really, really important to us as we move forward. Obviously, having this open communication is, and as I've seen from a meeting last week, it's just really allowing for all of us to get on the same page. We're really looking forward to working together with you for a project that not only delivers for our current community and school district, but really one that sets a really nice foundation for generations to come. So my intention tonight is to thank you for the time and for allowing us to really move forward in these discussions. And I am very happy to be a part of the project and really happy to work with the city on this as well. So it really is just taking a few minutes to express gratitude. So thank you. That's all I had for tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Carla, did you want your 3 minutes?
Mayor, I think she just told me she's not planning on speaking.
Do what?
She just told me that she doesn't need to speak.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Kelly and Carla.
Thank you.
We will move down. Do we have any unscheduled public comment?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, Diane. We will go on down and we are going to have a public hearing. So we will go into this public hearing right now. This hearing will come to order. This is a public hearing before the City Council of the City of Idaho Springs to take testimony for consideration to approve Resolution Number 8, Series 2021, a resolution conditionally approving a final development plan on property known as 1628 Virginia Street, Idaho Springs, Colorado, for a residential townhome project. If there is any public comment or testimony, you would be sworn in by our city clerk. The order of this public hearing will be as follows: applicant testimony, the city attorney, and public comment and testimony. This hearing is now declared open. It is 7:40, and we are ready to hear applicant testimony.
Mayor, I think you usually get a staff report from the city staff before the applicant speaks.
Yes, but it wasn't in my. Yes, we'll get a staff report. It's not on here, but you're right.
Okay. Okay, this is an application by Blue Spruce Habitat for Humanity. As mentioned, this is for 1628 Virginia Street. It's a project that consists of 4 duplexes, making a total of 8 housing units. Now, Chapter 21 of the Municipal Code, the Land Development Regulations, requires a public hearing and decision by City Council for request to approve a final development plan following a recommendation by Planning Commission. Also, if City Council does approve this application tonight, the applicant will still need to apply for and obtain approval of an administrative plat to adjust the lot lines on the property. In terms of existing conditions, this is a very long and narrow or shallow property. You have about 15,000 square feet or a third of an acre. The frontage on Virginia Street is over 250 feet long. The lots typically are about 57 feet deep. However, because of the steep terrain that begins at the back of this property and a retaining wall that runs down the middle, the long way of the property, only about the front 40 feet along Virginia Street are actually usable. The retaining wall that runs down through the middle of the site, parallel to Virginia Street, holds up an embankment. This property extends up to and on top of that embankment, and across that embankment is a shared private driveway that is used by several properties that are on the north side of the driveway. Also, a small portion of this property is on the north side of the driveway. Originally, the applicant was going to locate parking in that location, and since then they had revised the project to move all the parking down to Virginia Street frontage and keep it all next to the houses. As I mentioned, the project consists of 8 townhouse units. Originally, the applicant, when they held their community meeting, the project consisted of 9 townhouse units that were divided among 3 buildings. Since that community meeting, the applicant reduced it to the present arrangement, which is a total of 8 units divided into the 4 duplex buildings. The duplexes will be constructed through Habitat for Humanity and will be income restricted, owner occupied workforce housing. Each unit has its own driveway with either 2 or 3 parking spaces. As I mentioned before, previously, a portion of the parking was going to be located to the north, where they would have to drive up 16th Street to reach that parking. One of the frequent concerns that was heard from residents in the area was about the steepness of 16th Avenue. So the applicant removed that parking so that all the parking was at the lower level. There was no need for persons who would live in these units to drive up the hill on 16th Avenue. The previous use of the property, there were 2 mobile homes there that were constructed in 1972. Habitat for Humanity bought this property for an affordable housing site. They removed the mobile homes and they have enclosed it with a chain link fence that is there now. In October 17th, 2019, they received approval by the Variance Board of a variance to reduce the front and rear setbacks. As I mentioned before, this is a very shallow site. So in order to be able to get the homes to fit on what is a very shallow site, they applied for and got approval for the reduced front and rear setbacks. Following that was the community meeting that took place on February 4th. Included in the attachments to this staff report are notes that were taken at that meeting of comments made by the members of the public who attended that. Then last December 16th, the variance board approved a second variance to allow 8 compact spaces to substitute for up to 5 standard size parking spaces. This again relates to the shallowness of the site as to why the compact were required, but every unit does have at least 1 standard size space. The existing zoning is R3, which allows single family duplexes and multifamily housing, as well as the townhome configuration that you see here. The surrounding zoning is predominantly R3, except if you go west across 16th Avenue, it says 17th, but that should say 16th Avenue. On the north side of Virginia Street, there are houses that are zoned R1. There are on 3 sides of the property, as well as a vacant lot to the north. To the south of the property is the and the Catholic Church. Yes, Barb? Okay. As I've noted below, the review process that they're going through, if City Council does approve this project, they will still have one more step to go through, which is to seek approval of an administrative plat to adjust the lot lines that exist today so that they align with the boundaries of the buildings and the lots that would be associated with each individual units. In terms of review criteria, there are basically 3 parts to the criteria that are used to determine whether or not a project should be approved. Those three parts are the zoning standards, which are contained in Chapter 21 of the Municipal Code. Also contained in the Municipal Code are the design, also contained in Chapter 21 are the design standards. And finally, there are the standards and specifications for design and construction. These essentially are the standards that are used by the Public Works Department, and they are reviewed by the city's consulting engineer, JVA, when we have applications. So you see listed on the review criteria page, a rundown of what the zoning standards are. So I'll just briefly mention, it is R3 multifamily zoning. It does allow attached family dwellings like the duplexes that you see in the site plan. The front and rear setbacks were reduced. The 5-foot minimum side setback is still maintained. The buildings are under the maximum height limit. Actually, by the way, the height is defined in Chapter 21. The official height would be 31 feet high, even though the ridge is slightly higher. I'll mention in terms of where that relates in terms of the upper level shared driveway, the third floor of these duplex units is approximately level with that driveway. So if you were standing on the shared driveway to the north, in terms of the height of what's in front of you, you're looking at something that's the equivalent of a 1-story building in front of you. And then there are 2 more stories below. In terms of unobstructed open space, it has slightly over the minimum required. Lot size, there's a footnote in table 2163 that has a provision that applies to this type of unit. Probably most people are familiar that a single family home typically has a requirement for a 6,000 square foot lot. But this footnote C that's mentioned in the staff report allows that size if you're talking about attached dwellings like a duplex or a townhome. That lot can be as small as 400 square feet. Taking the approximately 15,000 square feet of this property and dividing it by the 8 units, you have approximately, you have almost 2,000 square feet of land for each of the dwelling units in terms of the total size of the property. So they have well above the minimum required. Additionally, the proposed units are 2 and 3 bedrooms. Both in terms of their sizes are well above the minimum allowed size for attached dwellings. And in terms of parking spaces, there are 7 required for the 2-bedroom units, 10 spaces for the 3-bedroom units, for a total of 17 spaces. The applicant is providing would provide 12 standard spaces and 8 compact spaces for a total of 20 spaces. The second part, as I mentioned, the second part is, does the project, in terms of its architectural design, comply with the design standards that are contained in Chapter 1? In terms of the intent or purpose, the design standards refer to that if a project is within a 2-block radius of the downtown historic district, a new development should build upon and support architectural features of the district itself. And as a general description of this project, it incorporates the elements that were typical of homes or residences that were found during the Western mountain mining boom era, with such features as gable roofs, lap siding, and simple arrangement of vertical oriented windows. In terms of massing, these are relatively small compared to the standards in terms of how long uninterrupted walls or roof planes can be. The buildings are well below the length of the 150-foot maximum length of any building. The roofs have a minimum slope of 612 or greater. They include a number of architectural elements to add more detail and interest to the exterior. Carports are incorporated into the overall building mass. All the buildings are oriented directly to the street. Loading, trash, and parking will all be by making use of the the driveway and the carport. Finally, the third part of the criteria is, does it meet the engineering and public works standards of the city? In addition to the public works director reviewing applications, the city's consulting engineer, JVA, has also reviewed the applications. Its comments are contained in the referral comments below, as well as in several other places, which I will mention in a moment. So there's a standard list of persons to whom we send copies of the application. Their comments are listed there below. As I mentioned, JVA's, the engineer's comments, there also are additional comments that are contained on a copy of the site plan that are shown in red. These were comments that were included when it went to Planning Commission, and all of these comments were essentially taken care of, and revisions were made to the plan. So the drawings you see have been modified so that they comply with all the requirements that were listed, or comments listed by the city's engineer. Additionally, if there was anyone who did not return comments, I did call to make sure, to check to make sure whether or not we were going to be getting comments or not, so that all the people who normally comment, you could see what comments we did receive from them. Public notice for both Planning Commission was provided by publishing a notice in the Clear Creek Current newspaper. A sign was posted on the property, and a notice was mailed to the property owners that were within 300 feet of this property. There are a number of attachments that I'll just briefly mention. A cover letter from the applicant, a letter from History Colorado stating that they don't see this having an adverse effect on the city's historic character. There is a drainage letter provided by the applicant's engineer, a traffic analysis provided by a consultant to the applicant that shows very little traffic being generated by this project, an engineering report regarding the existing retaining wall, the notes from the community meeting, a comment letter from Excel Energy, a very detailed and lengthy environmental site assessment looking at any type of hazards that might be on the property, and then various drawings including a survey, a plat, a topo survey, the site plan, landscape plan, a site plan that has the JVA comments, architectural drawings, and the site plan as it was amended after the Planning Commission hearing to incorporate JVA's comments, and the City Council resolution, which you saw preceded this staff report. So in summary, the staff has found that the application meets the criteria for, it finds that the project does meet the criteria for approval, and staff does recommend approval with the exception as noted in the recommended conditions of approval that are part of the proposed motion. As noted, on April 28th, the Planning Commission held a hearing, and listed there are the recommendations that were included in their approval of the project. And again, these conditions were addressed by the applicant and have been incorporated into the plans that are before you tonight. And so you also have before you a suggested City Council motion. And I'm available if you'd like me to answer any questions now or wait until after you've received all the testimony.
We're going to wait on the questions. We want to hear from the applicant. Who's going to present from the applicant?
I am.
Okay, Molly.
My name is Molly Wheelock, and I'm representing Habitat for Humanity. I am the architectural designer for the applicant. Thank you all for hearing our proposal tonight. And thank you, Mike, for that really thorough explanation of our design process and review process, which has been lengthy. Diane, do you need me to be sworn in or anything?
Yes, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I think that a lot was covered with that, and I would like to take the time to just address some concerns that came up during the community meeting and during the Planning Commission meeting by the public, that I think that those who were present may have logged off before we were able to respond. And I think that's really essential. I care about the community. I care about the neighbors to this property and making sure that this project is seen as a legacy in the town and not as a negative. So I want to talk to those items. First, the property to the east, there was concern about proximity of parking and the building to the neighbor's shed and property line. We have moved all parking off that property line, and it is underneath the carport. It's concealed under the building. And we're, I think, about 8 feet from that property line. The 3 spaces that Mike noted have been removed from the Wall Street, and no access, no parking will be along Wall Street. Everything will be along Virginia Street. Bollards or similar guards will be placed along 16th Street to manage sliding concerns, which are definitely an issue that needs to be addressed as much as we can as just one property owner there. The height along Wall Street, as Mike mentioned, is the equivalent of 1 story when you're at the east end there. Let's see. The core and shell of the building is planned to be prefab, so this should be a pretty efficient construction timeline. We're working with a company to bring those in a panelized construction system that will just take a couple of weeks to erect with cranes. So hopefully that keeps construction timeline to a minimum, and most of the volunteer work will be on the interior of the building. And we are addressing the 2 walls that are on that site. One is historic and one is non-historic. The lower wall is non-historic and will be removed and replaced with a structural retaining wall that will also retain the buildings. And then the rear wall will be maintained and repaired along that area, and the site will be fenced so that there's have construction fencing along that historic wall to preserve it as well. I think that was the majority of those concerns, and I really think that Mike did a great job presenting. So I think we're just really excited to get this project rolling. We've gone through the process with the city and worked to address their concerns and the community's concerns. And I think it will be a great amenity to working families in Clear Creek County. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Molly. Diane, do we have testimony from the public?
Yes, sir. We had 7 people signed up, but I only see 5 people on the screen. And Carmen, would it be possible to swear all of them in at the same time?
No, you want everybody's name on the record. Although, you know what, if you want to, yeah, just swear them in one by one. Sorry, Diane.
Okay, it's okay. There are 5. The first one is Rick Scott. If you could
raise your hand. Can we see your picture? You have a video, Rick? Are you with us, Rick?
His microphone is turned off.
You're on mute.
Unmute, okay.
There you go. We're going to swear you in, Rick, so you can make a comment. You'll raise your right hand. There he is.
Do you swear the testimony you are about,
okay, here I am. Yes.
do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I got 3 minutes. I'm going for it. Whenever I say intersection, I'm referring to 16th and Virginia. The kids will be riding their bikes in this intersection. They already do. And these townhomes will just add more danger to that. It's not a matter of if somebody gets hurt. It's a matter of when. The intersection is too dangerous. I've slid all the way through that intersection into Colorado Boulevard more than 3 times, and you just can't stop there. And once these townhomes are built, Once we're headed down 16th from Wall Street, right now we can see if any cars are coming down Virginia headed westbound. That's when we go for it. With those townhomes built, we'll never be able to see what traffic's coming. It'll be a blind intersection, which will add to its danger. Okay, you're taking an already dangerous intersection and knowing you're going to make it an extremely dangerous situation. The townhomes create more shade, so therefore the ice will last longer on 16th. We don't need that. Just because you can build somewhere doesn't mean you should build somewhere. Okay, let me see. Come on. Once these townhomes are built, there's no way that 16th Street can ever be straightened out, because it has to, in order for that to happen, it has to go, 16th Street has to go east through the property where these proposed townhomes might be built. This is arguably the most dangerous intersection in Idaho Springs. UPS, FedEx, and construction trucks all use this highway, this intersection, and it's hard for them to stop as it is now. And there's not that much traffic here. And when somebody said here a minute ago that a traffic impact statement was made and it's not going to affect, I just can't believe that. That is very hard for me to believe, that the traffic is not going to increase to where it's going to be a big problem here. There's people that run no stop signs constantly. I almost got hit yesterday. Christina over here on the upper part of Wall Street above these proposed townhomes, she almost got hit 2 days ago. I think these plans, when these plans were originally drawn up, I don't think this intersection was given much thought at all about the steepness of 16th Street and how dangerous it is. The city's liability, what's their liability if they approve this when somebody gets hit and seriously injured down there at this intersection, knowingly approving something that's already dangerous? Let's see where we are. Don't turn our town into Frisco. If you've been over there recently, it's a shame what happened to Frisco, and we're turning Idaho Springs into Frisco, and it isn't right. Let's see, to even suggest that these townhomes should be built in this area is a disrespectful and inconsiderate to nearby residents. This was and is a bad idea from the get-go. Without addressing and coming up with a solution to this intersection, this should not be approved. And today I started at 1st Street and I drove Virginia Street all the way down to 23rd Street. And I counted the houses on each block. And I went times 4 occupants per house. There's not one block in Virginia Street from 1st Street to 23rd Street that has the density of this population of these townhomes. So it doesn't belong here in a residential area. That's about all I got to say. Please don't build it.
All right. Who do we have next, Diane?
Christina Weinke.
Hi, that's me.
Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So the building plans that are being proposed, in my opinion, create a super dangerous and potentially deadly intersection, right where Rick was talking. So the sheer height of the buildings, 31 feet, is going to create a shadow on the already steep, very, very steep incline of Wall Street. Like he said, delivery trucks, FedEx, UPS, they all go up there, use it daily. We all use that road daily, so we know how it drives. If there's any amount of snow or ice on that road, you're taking that and you're saying, okay, I'm going to go down this and hopefully I stop at Colorado in 16. It happens in the winter without additional shading. So when you add a 31-foot building right up against that road, it's going to create shading that keeps that slope into 16th and Colorado slippery all winter. With that in mind, you're increasing the density of the population in that corner. There's already kids in the intersection playing. There's no green space in these plans. They have the plans made so you butt these townhomes right up against that one-way road. It's a narrow road. There's no green space around for people to be walking. There's no sidewalks. Pedestrians are going to be in that intersection. Pedestrians from the townhomes, residents that already live here, and pedestrians, tourism, people going into the Elks Lodge. So that's just going to be incredibly busy. It already is busy on weekdays, weekends where tourism's in town. So when I-70 starts to back up, Colorado Boulevard starts to back up. And when Colorado Boulevard starts to back up, you have so many people trying to get west into the mountains, flying down Virginia. They blow through those stop signs that are on Virginia and 16th Street. I see it constantly. I'm about one of the only people that would have to travel up 16th Street towards the do not enter sign. And I come very close to colliding with people constantly at that stop sign. And it's people from out of town. You put a 31-foot building right there at that intersection. Now you've just created a blind corner for me, for all those tourisms, for the residents up on Wall Street. You've created a blind corner, an icy slope, all because 31-foot structure is in such a cramped space. The population density, the kids that are going to be there, what liability is going to be on me morally and legally if you guys approve this plan? Neglect for these safety concerns is an extreme concern for the community, for those people that you're going to be putting in the housing and the tourists that you're inviting to this town. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
For your comments, Christina. Who do we have next, Diane?
Janelle and Adam Webb.
Hi, Rick and Christina pretty much said everything that I had to say.
Just say it anyway.
Next is Vicky Larson.
I'm right here.
Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say that I'm an 18-year resident and business owner in the impact zone of this development. And with the variance granted to the developer for compact vehicle size in order to meet the parking requirements for the development, I really believe the overflow guest parking will be more than 17th Street, Colorado Boulevard, and 16th Street will really be able to handle on a regular and ongoing basis, especially as the tourism and the popularity of our mountain communities in Idaho Springs has been experiencing even during this challenging past year. So in my opinion, concurring with the safety issues that I see that we've heard from the other testimonies given, that this could have a very negative impact on the current residents of this area. Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vicky, for your comments. Diane, who's next?
Reba Bechtel. Here you are.
A little spotty.
If you could raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My concerns for this project have been the density related to the size of the parcel, the parking for the residents and their guests, and the long-term maintenance going forward. Habitat has been very responsive to my requests for providing additional information regarding the deed restriction and the condominium association details. Beyond the criteria council is considering this evening, I feel every developer should pay their way, so that I would ask that no additional waiver of fees be granted for this project. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Reba. Anybody else, Diane?
I had Michael Kastenbaum signed up. Is he?
He is. Michael, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Michael.
I'm now off mute. Thank you. Hey. Do I need to be sworn in or?
Sorry, I was writing. Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I joined in the last minute of Molly's talking. And so I only heard starting from Rick. So I don't even feel it's fair, actually, for me to comment. Because I don't know what Molly or Mike might have said to offset the comment, but nonetheless, here's what I want to say. I'm a strong advocate of affordable housing, and I think other people who are against this are also advocates of affordable housing. I'm really concerned about the icy road. I'm curious to know if Molly or Mike addressed it. I don't know if that's part of this now that we've said what Rick and Christina eloquently said. I don't know if we can now hear from Molly and Mike in response, but I've walked up and down that steep road, and anything that could possibly make that road more icy has to be somehow this build has to make it so that road does not get more icy or dangerous. And I think we all agree with that. The other thing that I think is really important, and I don't know if Molly and Mike addressed it, is I'm wondering if there's any kind of reinforced retainment on the wall, the above the build. So that would be below Wall Street. I'm curious if there's anything going on to better retain that wall. If there is any question about that wall, and that's another issue. And I'm kind of personally curious because I now have the house just to the east of it, if there's going to be a 5-foot setback or if it's going to be a little more, just because that's my house directly to the east. I have both the house to the east and also I have land just above. So mostly I'm concerned about the icy road, the safety of the kids. Thank you. Okay, 40 seconds left. The other things that I wanted to bring up, is that it? 35 seconds? Thank
Yes.
you. The other thing thank you. I'm concerned to some extent about mostly Christina's view. And I think her view is going to be maybe impacted the most. I don't know if that's been addressed. It probably has by Mike and Molly. So again, I feel like I've come to this late. So why don't I just leave it with that road is dangerous and has to be dealt with more than anything. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael, for your comments.
Thank you. I'm sorry I came late. I'm so sorry. I was stuck.
Do we have anybody else, Diane?
The last person we had was Kim Steele. Is she on?
I haven't seen Kim. Okay. All right. What I want to do is, council, is there any questions for the applicant or from our staff that you'd like to ask before we go into a conversation amongst ourselves?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Art.
Scott. No, go ahead, Scott.
My first thought of the project before the discussion came up on 16th was the shadow that's going to be caused on Wall Street on the north side of this project, how the drainage is on that street. And that is definitely going to leave a shadow on Wall Street. So I don't know if that has come into consideration on the thought process.
Mike or Molly, was there a shade study done?
We have not done a shade study. We are building buildings on that property. They are going to have some height to them, which will cause some shadows on Wall Street on the lower section there. We will be at between 1 and 2 stories and even less than 1 actually at the very east end. But there will be shadow on that, and I don't think we can prevent that even with a 1-story building. I'm not sure if it's the burden of one property owner to manage that hill, but I hear the concerns and they do strike me, and I'm happy to talk about them more and look at how we can mitigate that. As far as drainage on the backside, we will have a retaining wall. Actually the stem wall for the buildings will be up to probably about 3 feet high, possibly 42 inches above that finished floor. which will manage some additional retaining to keep that grade actually even probably a little less steep than it is now between the two walls. And we will have foundation drains in place and French drains, of course, to manage drainage down to the city's existing storm drainage.
Mayor, I'm sorry for the audio record. This is Carmen Berry, City Attorney. I think what Mayor and Council may need on Councilor Fennell's question is testimony from Mr. Davenport about if and how shading fits into the review criteria that you are applying to this issue. So if Mr. Davenport, could you maybe address that for Mayor and Council?
It's a concern that does come up frequently, but with respect to how it affects drainage and views, the applicant has by their engineer have done a drainage study in terms of drainage, and drainage is dealt with in three ways. The drainage that will come onto this property from other properties, which is going to be from the people who have property uphill or that use the driveway on that is called Wall Street, even though it's actually a private drive. The development has to deal with its own drainage, and it has to deal with how it lets any drain run off of the property. Those are requirements of the engineer. But getting back to the shading off of a one-story, there is shading off of a one-story building, but the equivalent of a one-story building, but that is relatively minimal compared to the many two-story buildings that there are in town. But we did not do any, as far as I know, in the process, in the time I've been involved and before my time, I don't think there was any specific analysis done of shading property. Shading
well, and
by this development.
Sorry, let me put it this way or ask this question. Under the code, is there a shading analysis that's required from an applicant for an FTP?
I'd like to address that comment. So,
well, hold on one second. Mike,
could
you answer that question first?
No, I would need to look it up. There's in chapter 21 for the requirements for a final development plan, there's a long list of possible studies that could be done. Shading might be on that list. They're not required, but there are things that could be asked to be done as part of an application.
Okay.
With regard to the shading, the Planning Commission, in terms of critical code updates and things that we need to look at, clearly shading is one of the issues. There is a shading diagram that has been prepared and that I believe is in the municipal code. Planning Commission members feel that it is inadequate and that this came up with the medical clinic building. And so the whole question of shading, shadow, and icing, they have asked the planners to relook at. That has not been done at this point in time.
Council, any more questions to the applicant or to the staff? Chuck?
Yeah, I have one more because I know 16th is an extreme case as far as the grade. And this project does not have a problem meeting side setback. So what I'm wondering is perhaps a way to mitigate some of this shading / icing in the winter is if the project was to take advantage of some of this side setback to have some of the buildings a little further to the east. I'm saying it would seem to me that it would allow more sun and less icing on 16th.
I'm going to jump in if that's all right. We actually do have a significant setback to the east, and we are currently 8 feet from our setback on the property line, which, just to be aware, when you drive 16th, the edge of the road is not the property line. The property line's actually set further away from the road. So there's a distance from the road edge, the pavement edge, to the property line. And then from there, there's an additional 8-foot setback. So we're approximately more like 12 to 16 feet from that road edge. And then on the other side, we're about the same edge difference to the property line on the east side, but that has a little bit more significant setback due to a funny little jog in that corner that pushes the building to the west a bit. So it's a bit of a Tetris game there.
Mayor?
Any other questions for the applicant or staff? Yeah, Art?
Mayor?
Go ahead, Art.
Jimmy, you want to go?
I'll go ahead, Art. Go for it, buddy.
Right, under project description, there's a comment about owner occupied workforce housing. Is it not a requirement then, being that all these, developers come in and say it's the benefit of our city, that the people be employed in this town so we can find the additional occupancy for the local workers? I mean, when we talk about workable housing or affordable housing and that type of category, it's for the benefit of having workers live here and work here. And I'm wondering if that falls under that category or not.
So, hi, I'm Lisa Cooper with Blue Spruce Habitat for Humanity. I'm actually the program director. Do you need to swear me in, Diane?
Armin?
Everybody who provides testimony needs to be sworn in, yes. Who's not staff?
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. Again, Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. Habitat has had a long history of providing affordable housing. So there is a need requirement to be able to obtain our homes. There's a willingness to partner with us and the ability to pay. So Habitat believes in a hand up, not a hand out. And one of our requirements is 12 of the last 36 months, the applicant needs to be in our service area. So we are really targeting the community and being able to find homeowners for the community and be able to provide that affordable housing for the people that live right there in our community. Does that answer your question, Art?
Not quite. What do you call a serviceable area? Is that Georgetown? Is that Lakewood? Is that Golden? Is it Evergreen? I mean, that could be very aware of, big web that you're casting there. I want to know specifically that they're required to be employed in our town.
So Kathleen O'Leary is the our executive director, and it sounds like she has yet a better explanation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Diane, do you want to swear me in and I'll answer?
Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
So our service area is Western Jefferson County, all of Clear Creek County, and part of Park County. So we do include more than just Idaho Springs in it. Our first homeowner that was selected for this housing actually works at a dentist office in town. So we do have mainly people that are interested in this housing are workers in this housing. We do have housing that we're building in Empire and in Evergreen, and folks who work in Evergreen tend to want to live in Evergreen, so they tend to go towards those homes. So it's not limited to Idaho Springs, it is limited to our mountain communities. So I hope that answers that for you.
How do you track that over a period of time? Do they have to be employed when they buy the house, and then somewhere down the line they can go to work in Denver, and you have no leverage on them?
Yes, so they are homeowners. We do have we do require that they are residents when they purchase the home, but yes, they can move. I mean, they can work down the hill. It is required to be owner occupied.
And there is a 30-year deed restriction on there that is managed by Division of Housing. But yeah, that could happen. We don't require them to sell if they take a job down the hill.
Okay.
Yeah. Could I answer Attorney Barry's question regarding the shadow lines and the concern about shadow? One of the changes to this project was at one point, I believe, they were looking at what is considered to be a multifamily dwelling unit. Because they're duplexes in the municipal code, those are considered two-family, and shadow line studies are not required for duplexes or two families. So it was not a requirement of this development when they moved to the duplex design.
I have one more question, if I may. On page 4 of 6, it refers to need to replace water and sewer lines to serve the proposed dwelling units and provide adequate fire protection. Who's paying for the replacement of the water and sewer lines?
That will strictly be up to the developer.
Okay. Do they know that?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Right, council, any more questions for the applicant or our staff?
I do, please.
Jim had a question.
Yeah, go right ahead, Jim.
So I don't know if it's for Mr. Davenport, Ms. Wheelock, Ms. Cooper, Ms. O'Leary. I apologize for the miss or misses. I don't know. We're the 6 folks that we've heard from tonight. Well, 7. Jim Steele didn't seem available tonight. Was it the first that you'd heard these concerns, as well as us as council? Were they at any public hearings or otherwise? Mr. Davenport gave a nice presentation, but if this was her, if you guys did hear of this, obviously that none of the above was mentioned. It seemed like all of them had the very same concerns. So if it was mentioned at the time of your public hearing, then obviously it just fell on deaf ears. And maybe I'm speculating in this, but you didn't take any of the public's consideration into the presentation to us. Maybe I'm incorrect. Did you not know of any of this prior to tonight?
Let me make an overall comment, Jimmy. One, this project was initiated prior to Community Matters serving as your interim planner. It's our understanding that the initial project was much denser, and the applicant worked with the then planner and others to so that the density of the project was lower than what was originally planned. But somebody that was involved from the get-go, Molly, maybe you can talk to that, because I know that was under Alan's timeline, because we were not around when the community meeting occurred.
Sure. So I would say that we have addressed a lot of community concerns. For one, we've put almost all of the parking underneath the carport. So we've really actually maximized our open space as much as we can. We have really tried to address this project's impacts on 16th Street, on Wall Street, and the concerns that were brought up by Mr. Scott were addressed. As far as at the time, this is the first time we've had this large of a response about the shading and about that intersection, and it's very strong and it's very important. But originally we were hearing about the sliding and the potential to slide into that property. We are addressing that by putting up bollards and fencing, so that guardrail fencing, so that any potential for that can be mitigated. I think that with this level of density, which does work within the R3, there will be construction, there will be a building there. We are still 15 feet back from the property line, so that does actually preserve site views. When you get down to the bottom, I understand that there is sliding there. I've driven that road myself, and it is a dangerous road. But I don't believe that the burden of managing that road falls on just on Habitat or on the applicant. We can talk about other ways to mitigate that, but we've actually worked to address many other concerns as well that the community brought up. We are within, though, the zoning regulations and have met them.
The staff report does mention, does note comments that began, actually, that were mentioned at the community meeting that took place in February last year. And from what I understand, there were comments at the preceding variance hearing in 2019. And at that time, I've been told that the major comments seemed to focus on how the parking was going to be handled. And I think the applicant made several changes regarding the parking by eliminating parking that would be off of Wall Street or the shared driveway. They eliminated the need for people who are in this project to be using that steep stretch of Wall Street. And they relocated that parking down to where it was with the individual residences rather than being a remote parking lot. And further, they did reduce the size of the project by eliminating a unit. So yes, these comments had come up before. They had previously been discussed, and they are briefly mentioned in the staff report.
Is it not a possibility that when the families move in, if this is okay, that they'll have the same concerns about the sliding and the ice and only contribute more to it? And won't that be a concern for us then as well? In fact, it'll be a bigger concern. And secondly, can somebody tell me what these things are priced at? How much they're gonna pay for these townhomes?
I can address, so let me get my video on. I can address how we price our homes. So Habitat's model is that the homes are always priced at the appraised value, but that is not necessarily what the family will pay. We have a first mortgage amount that will be based on what at 30% of what the family earns. And then there's a forgivable second mortgage. That's the difference between the appraised value and the first mortgage. And so that gets forgiven over 20 years. So let's say the units appraise at 300,000, but the family can afford 200,000. They will have a first mortgage amount for 200,000. And then they will have 100,000 second mortgage that just kind of sits there that they do not pay on unless they sell the house.
Okay, if they sell the house, then they have to pay proportionally for how long they've been in for the second mortgage?
Yeah.
And are they required, like everyone else, to have 20% down?
No, there is no down payment on these homes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any more questions for the applicant or staff, council? Okay. It is, let's see, we will go, this hearing is now closed. It is 8:35. And now we will have discussion amongst council. We'd like to open it up. Chuck?
You know, this is a hard one because they meet the density under R3. And we just heard that there is no requirement on the shading. It's a big concern, but they didn't have to comply because it just is, it's probably something that we should have, but it isn't there. So, I mean, it seems like the applicant has met the bar, and I just don't know, you know, how you would turn them down.
Well, I agree. I think they've done everything they should do and can do, but I think sometimes because something's not in writing, if you're really doing something for the benefit of the community as well as the benefit of the people who are going to be in there, maybe they should take a second look at that. There seemed to be a very astute applicant And maybe they should get out there, maybe in the morning when we have 7 inches of snow like we promised, and see what they might want to think, if there's something that could be done that we haven't thought about it. The people that spoke, I think, they spoke from experience, and sliding down a hill is no fun. And I'm sure they've done it year after year. And I think, this is just going to add to that eventually when those places get full. And I just think that they've done everything. They've been patient. Maybe they could be patient a little longer and try to see if they can't come up with a remedy and tell us if they looked at it and what they thought. And maybe we could look at this after they give us a summary of what they think. It sounds like it hasn't been given a lot of thought by the applicant or the consultants, because they just maybe were not as aware how serious it was. And I don't fault them for that. But I don't think, I think these people who spoke needed a little more time in court before we make a judgment.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, I'd love to see some affordable housing come to the community. That's number one. And then the unique nature of that hill is a little out of the norm. And sometimes you might not have a shade study that's required, but on a situation like this, where you have a unique property, it's something we should consider, and in good conscience, if we just throw that building in there without the study, and it is multiplies the problem that's already there, I think we've caused something that's a little bit harmful.
Yeah, Scott, I know we have John Bardoni here. I'm just thinking, I can imagine what the city could do to make that hill any better, or it probably already would have been done. But I could see one thing that the applicant could do is, in a study, at least do no harm. Don't shade it more, don't ice it up more. And that's why I mentioned the fact that this does not have a side setback issue. And perhaps there's a way, if needed, to move a building a little further to the east to allow some more sun and less icing. It's just a suggestion.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot to mention I would like to hear from John Bardoni if that's possible.
Yeah.
Okay, first I'm going to let other council speak on it, and then we'll Bob.
Well, I would like to get Carmen's comments on looking at additional things beyond what is required of the council with zoning requirements and so on. And it does seem very right to add some, shall I say, non-official requirements here that are not in the code. But I just wanted to be on solid ground, not, potentially getting into some legal issues by adding an additional, shading study or something like that.
John Curtis.
I've had several citizens, I'm trying to think the right way to do this, but they have concern about low income people living in town. And I've had quite a few mention that to me, so that's what all I have to say.
All right, thank you, John. What I would say is hearing all the concerns about the shading on 16th, and I already know that it's a problem. I've actually had calls from people that live in that area trying to figure out what the city could do to help that. I would like to suggest that a shade, even though it's not required, I would like the applicant to do a shade study to see what a professional study would say about that road. The safety of the residents that would be living in there and the safety of our other community members is my number one priority. And if this is, I would like to hear what the professionals with a shade study would say about this road and how it would be impacted through the course of a day when the sun's out. Is it ever going to get any sun to thaw out. It really concerns me. I also believe in affordable housing. I think Habitat is a great program. I think it does provide quality housing for even at 200,000. I wouldn't consider that low income to anybody. So, you know, the idea of Habitat doing a project in our community, I'm not against at all. So Carmen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things, and for everybody, the only reason I'm offering anything is what I'm offering is procedural input and guidance to the council as your legal counsel, not offering any additional factual information or anything like that. The public hearing is closed, so council, as you know, you are not at this point able to hear any additional factual input and information. But procedurally, council, first of all, in response to Councilor Boland's question about, I'm getting a little feedback from someone, Councilor Boland's question about what you are here to consider. As you know, in the land use context and any kind of application, Mayor and Council, you are called upon to apply the criteria that are in the code. If those criteria that are in the code, which are published and available and on notice to everybody in the world and every applicant about how their application will be judged, if those criteria in your view are inadequate, then you as a council and we as a city need to change our criteria that are in the code. And we can do that and should do that. I agree. If that does not meet your and the community's policy perspectives on what should be considered. What I'm hearing, and maybe you are as well, Mayor, is that there are questions about whether or not these concerns expressed by the public and that council is clearly hearing, if those indeed are able to be considered by council, which is precisely why I asked Planner Davenport, is this sort of a study required? And his testimony, as you heard, was not real sure if it is or not. At least that's what I heard from him. So perhaps, Mayor and Council, you are looking for a way and an evaluation from staff about whether or not these shading issues in particular are able to be evaluated by you and considered by you. And since you did not get definitive testimony from staff on that tonight, perhaps you could, an option for you procedurally, in addition to the options of approve or deny, another option would be to continue the matter and ask staff to evaluate whether or not a shading study could be under the code considered and evaluated by you in this context. That's an option as well.
If it's not in the code, is it not feasible to ask the applicant if he'd be willing to do that?
It's certainly, you can always, Councilor Cacavelli, you could always ask. It's certainly feasible as something you could ask and indeed recommend to be done or evaluated. Whether or not, again, whether or not you as council base your decision on that is something you need, I think, staff to tell you. And you didn't get that answer this evening.
No, Carmen, I want to be very clear that it's very clear in the building design standards that the shadow line study is not required for a duplex or two-family. It is only required for multifamily.
Okay, and that's thanks, Barb. That's something that was articulated during the hearing part. That's not new factual information. That's not what we're doing right now, is talking about new factual information. But thank you for the reminder. You indeed did get testimony from Planner Cole about whether or not the city could strictly require that kind of a study for duplexes.
So my question is, I'm not asking that a shade study be required for every property, but this is a unique piece of property with the way that road runs alongside of it. So I'm wondering if we can request it on something that has a possible effect from the shade.
Once again, you could, if there were, let's say, a basis for doing so under existing code. In other words, I think what you're suggesting, Councilor Pennell, is perhaps on properties with or at a certain grade, or that are within so many feet of the right of way in unique circumstances, or even if we had something as generic as if and when an application is received, the staff evaluates the potential for shading to be significant, comma, then staff can require. Something like that could be code justification to require something like that, Councilor Pennell. And again, what we're hearing is that does not exist in current code. Is that something that we can talk about adding as a general matter? Yes.
And to be clear, Carmen, the Planning Commission has specifically stated there is a diagram that is part of the code that is not sufficient for anyone to make any determination about shading and shadow. And that was something that, in terms of the code amendments we were to do, was the second step of the process. So that is something that is on Planning Commission's agenda.
Can't we file this somehow, Carmen, under special circumstances?
Sorry, Councilor Cacavelli, say again.
Can't we look at this under the cover of saying that this is special circumstances? We're talking about a safety issue. And I know the codes are the codes, but unfortunately, sometimes the codes are inadequate, and we as a body have to make sure that we cover all the bases, code or no code. And if it's a safety issue, I think it's our responsibility.
Well, I guess in answer to your express question, is there a special circumstances allowance under the approval criteria for FDP? No.
Wherever you can find one, wherever you find it.
Well, there are, in general, as you know, not to go too far afield here, but again, this is all procedural in general and not about this. I'm not offering you factual testimony about the merits of this, but in general, we do have under the code special circumstance process for development to get exceptions to the generally applicable rules, which is our variance process. And of course, to require a variance, there first has to be a mandate, a code requirement that something be done, or something be met, or something be this certain way. So to ask for an exception to something, there has to be a rule. And there is no rule that requires this shading study to be done, as we know.
Carmen.
Yes, sir, Jim.
Our previous chief, Malenka, had obviously the 16th Avenue has been a concern. He even moved that one parking spot that was eastbound on Colorado and got rid of that and moved that one car that would park that close there. You know, that was his, it was like he said it was the most dangerous intersection in the town. But if, I mean, the residents are saying, I mean, it's a direct neglect of safety concerns. It's already dangerous, and we're almost allowing it just because it says so, that we're going to allow something to go on, and then it seems like we're putting ourselves into a position where the blood's on our hands when something bad happens here. And I understand the whole, you know, they've met the criteria, absolutely, 100%. But isn't there still some sort of a, you know, and morals and ethics still do exist? No?
Do moral and ethics still exist? Yes, they do. And I am not telling anybody on council that to abandon your personal morals or ethics. I'm telling you what is legal and not. And that's my rule.
Sure.
So yeah.
I got you, Carmen.
One thing I'll say that I know somebody wanted to hear from John Bordoni, but the public hearing is closed and we can't take any testimony from our public works director at this point in the meeting.
And sorry, Mayor, if again, if thinking about procedural options here, if council is having a difficult time reconciling the testimony that you have here this evening, perhaps with the desire to have additional information, that may, once we get that additional information, that may indeed impact code-based criteria. If council is hesitant to or struggling with what to do this evening procedurally because you maybe want some more information, an option would be, again, to set this matter over to receive additional information and testimony on the issues of concern of shading that you've heard this evening, whether that additional information and testimony comes from the applicant who is hearing these concerns, from Mr. Bordoni, from Mr. Davenport. You could, as council, direct all of those people to return to you with additional information and testimony on the issues of shading and the effect, potential effect on the surrounding rights of way, and to offer that additional testimony to you on a date certain. Again, we would have the public be able to comment on that additional information as well, just like tonight. And then with that additional information from both staff and the applicant, maybe we could all have a more informed basis for your decision and whether or not we can link that to code criteria.
I absolutely think that's the direction that this could go.
I agree with Scott.
Might I suggest then, Mayor, is council meeting on the 24th is not Memorial Day or anything, right? That's the 31st this year. Okay. If you think that's enough time, perhaps either May 24th or June 14th, those are the next two council regular business meetings. If that's the consensus of council, perhaps a motion to continue the public hearing again, so everybody on notice, public, applicant, and anyone who got notice of this will know the new date certain, so staff doesn't have to renotice it, but we'll have another portion of the hearing. And Mayor and council, you can set parameters on that. If you only want to hear additional evidence and testimony on the issue of shading or shading in view shed, which is another concern that we heard. Shading, view shed impacts traffic safety, not traffic impact, but again, shading. If those are the parameters of additional information and testimony that you want on the next date, I think that's parameters that you could put on the hearing that you want to continue, or if you want to continue it.
Okay, with hearing that, council, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this hearing, May 24th, regarding the shading as it relates to icing and public safety.
Do I have a second?
Second.
In a second, discussion. I would like to push it out to June 14th. That'll give us some more time. Also, council would like to we're gonna have to meet in person. I'd like to go out and do a little field trip over there to take a look at it, so we can all go stand on the site and take a look at the current shading that the elks may be causing, and what this project would look like. Is it going to really cause additional shading with this?
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. The 14th would be better.
I'd like to amend that motion then for it to be on June 14th.
Right. Second.
Okay.
Motion is second. All right. Final chance for discussion.
I was wondering if possibly we get some flags placed there by the developers just to show where the base of the wall will be. Give us a little better idea where the shade will be falling.
Okay, we will get planner to discuss that with the developer and see how we can get that accomplished. Okay, any last discussion? Roll call, please.
Michael Hellman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Olin,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Okay, so we will continue this to June 14th. Thank you, everybody, applicants, staff. All right, we will move on. We're going to move down to Lorraine. She's going to go through our finances in about 7 minutes.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, everyone. I will do that. I will share my screen, and please pause a moment while you see it. Everyone have it? I'm reviewing the March financial statements for the city. And as usual, we've highlighted the amounts of the money that you have. $7,491 is your combined cash at the end of March and is allocated to each fund. General funds allocation is $1.6 million. And I'm going to go to the general funds balance sheet where that's the first item. And
Lorraine,
let me, yes,
this is Andy. Would you mind enlarging that a little bit, please?
okay.
Thank you. A little more.
And he didn't bring his glasses tonight.
How's that?
Thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. That's good.
All right. So here's our page of the financial statements for the general fund, and where there's $1.6 million in assets and a total of cash assets and a total of $2 million in assets. We'll scoot down to the fund balance, and you'll be seeing this fund balance shift a little as this is the month where we're preparing for the 2020 audit. And so there's a lot of year-end entries that are being made. And so it might look a little different next year, as some things that are received after the year ended will be harkened back, accrued back to 2020. Then we have the various revenues. Here are your major revenues highlighted, and they are still coming in fairly strong compared to 2019 and 2020. You see you've gotten more property taxes at this point in the year, at the end of March, than they had in those years. And same thing with the sales taxes and the use taxes and the franchise fees. So things are coming in pretty well so far through 3 months of the year. Building permits are lower than last year's because of changes due to COVID primarily, where there's less going on, and other projects that aren't happening that may have happened in prior years. Here's your marijuana special sales tax. Again, it's coming in a little stronger than in the past 2 years at the same point in the year. And road and bridge bumps up and down. And so does the highway user taxes, which is dependent mostly on gasoline sales. So it's slightly lower than the previous 2 years. Fines are lower, as we've talked about in previous months. Rents are about the same, slightly higher than other years. And so we see for the whole year, you've gotten quite a bit more than other 2 years, 986,000 by the end of March, but that's due primarily that big jump to reimbursements and refunds that has to do with the CARES Act monies you received for your expenditures due to the COVID. I'm going to skip all the general funds, but I encourage you to take a look at the bottom line of each of those pages and see that these expenditures are, roughly around 25% or less for the year at this point, unless there's a reason that you can see why there's a special one-time change in those items. We'll go to the end of the general fund and see total expenditures for the year are slightly less than the prior 2 years. Revenues were slightly more. So we've got net revenues over expenditures at the end of March of $276,000 in the general fund, $250,000. Since we don't have too much time tonight, I'm going to go forward to the water and sewer funds and take a look at those, which are your other two primary operating funds. Okay, here we go. If you're looking at a hard copy, this is on page 30 of the financial statements. The water fund assets are looking good at 6 million. Fund equity started the year at 4.8 million. And then we look at the revenues have come in as expected, slightly lower in the first quarter of this year than they were last year, but higher than the year before for water usage revenues. Going to the bottom of page 33 is the water fund expenditures through March, and they are slightly higher than prior years. They're at 36.5% of the estimated expenditures. And you can look back over those line items and see if there's anything that you want to pay attention to on what those charges were for. Then we're going to go to the wastewater fund. Again, strong in assets, 18 million. Strong in fund equity at 11.9 million. And some of that will be taken off with the CIP funds, which we're not going to discuss tonight, but you've noticed those in the past that they kind of net against these operating sides of this similar funds. So for the wastewater fund, charges for services, again, like water, they were lower than last year, but higher than the year before for the first 3 months of 2021. And the expenditures, we'll see at the bottom of page, oops, I can't tell the page, I'm sorry, 38. Are lower than last year and the year before through the first three months of the year. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, and we can delve into any more specifics later when you have more time.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Lorraine?
Looks good.
We're looking good.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine.
You're welcome.
Again.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, we're gonna move down to City Administrator, Andy.
Mayor and council, you have my report with one request for action, please.
All right. Do I have a motion? I'll do it then.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'll make a motion. Let's see, where are we at?
I can do it, Mike.
I will move to approve the proposal from Studio Seed in partnership with Dig Studio, HDR, and EPS to develop a downtown master plan for an amount not to exceed $65,000 from line item 2100-6028, which comes out of the improvement fund. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. John put into our packet kind of the process that we did to choose Seed to represent us and to do our downtown master plan. It was a tough decision. We had 3 very good proposals, and then at the end of the day, with everybody mute there. Can everybody, Don, can you mute everybody?
Barely.
You're in and out.
So at the end of the day, after talking with Cheney on a call, we were able to get some clarification on their proposal, and we felt that they have stood above everybody else to represent us in getting this master plan done. Any other comments or discussion? Man, this part's easy tonight. Can I have roll call?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon, Bolin,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right. Motion
I was
passed.
a yes, I apologize.
Yeah, Cheney is on with us tonight. We just want to introduce you to everybody. Cheney. Cheney was part of our group that did the East End Master Plan several years ago, and we're looking forward to working with you on this project. You have any wise words for us, Cheney?
I am bringing a shade study. That's all I know.
Good for you.
No, do I need to be sworn in or anything? Is this?
Nope.
Okay. It's nice to meet you all. I look forward to working with you. We're getting started right away. We're on a very tight timeline and trying to get this done, by the bulk of it by the end of the summer. So we've got a massive task in front of us, and we're looking forward to it. In fact, look to get started next week.
All right. Any quick questions for Cheney from anybody?
Happy to have that crew back. It's really great.
All right.
I'm impressed with the East End overlay plan, and be good to work with them some more.
All right. Thank you, Cheney. We will move down. City Clerk.
Mayor and Council, you have my staff report for your review with no request for action.
All right. Any questions for Diane or Andy? All right. Some notes. All right. We'll move down. Chief, PD.
Yes, you've got the staff report, also no action, but I also did want to update the council that purchase earlier that you asked about was for a bulletproof vest for Corporal Frost. It's not something we buy a lot because we don't have a lot of officers that stay for more than 5 years. So we're happy that Corporal Frost has stayed more than 5 years, and so he needed a new vest. We're actually going to seek potential grant funding to possibly get reimbursed for half of that amount. But right now that grant is closed. I was also looking into that while we were on this meeting. So I'll leave it at that.
Chief, any questions for Chief Cusick?
Chief, is that one of those awesome vests that are like level 5 or whatever, stop 223 rounds at 10 yards or whatever?
I'm not sure what level vest he purchased or what we purchased for him, but most of the vests now, the technology is so great that it's very thin material, and it will stop things like rifle rounds. You're correct. So.
Way cool. Right on. Keep safe, man.
Yeah.
All right. Public Works, Water and Wastewater, John?
Mayor and council, you have my staff report with no request for action. I will let you know that in conjunction with Councilman Pennell, we have set a date to repair a leaking water line on his building at 15th. So May 18th, we're going to dig up 15th from Minor Street to his building. So we'll have to close 15th to get that repaired. So hopefully that'll be just a one-day project and we'll get that done.
All right, thank you, John. Any other questions for John? All right.
I'm sorry, Mike. So as I said earlier, I think John could be a help in determining the 16th and Virginia intersection. I think he would be valuable on his insight on that.
All right. Yes, we will get input from John on our next public hearing. All right. A few things. Diane sent out our sales tax report. Surprising, but and good that we are up. I think it was about $50,000 or $60,000 from 2019. So we are carrying our sales tax. We're starting to see a little bit of normalcy in our community. With that, also on the 16th of this month, all of the restrictions will be lifted in Clear Creek County. 100% capacity at restaurants and businesses. The only thing that will stay in place that will still have to be used will still be under a mask order. I think right now it is going through until the 31st of August. The county commissioners will be speaking on this tomorrow morning, and I'll be on that call so I can keep up for all of you and the community what they're thinking is as we move forward. We did get all the Jersey barriers pulled off of Minor Street last week, or no, that was this. When was that, John? That was, yeah, Friday. And so we did that on Friday with the weather like it was today. And tomorrow we decided just to leave the street open one way through that. And then hopefully on Wednesday sometime we close it off. So our businesses downtown that want to participate in the Idaho Springs Marketplace will be able to start putting up their outdoor seating. We have contacted and putting contact out to everybody about their encroachment agreements. They're making sure that their liquor license does reflect the space that they are wanting to use. And we will start plugging away at that. Everybody's really excited about being able to get back out onto the street. CDOT, I had another meeting or a conference call with Jeff Hampton. He is still on target to have the parking lot paved, restriped, and back to us in good working order before Memorial Day weekend. So I am standing strong. I'll contact him again later this week just to touch bases to make sure that the promise that we've had is going to come through. So I'm staying on top of that. Also, to let you know, our new planner will be here on June 1st. Andy has offered the job, got confirmation, and he is planning the transition from where he's at now in Iowa. Where is he at? Not Iowa. Where's he at, Andy?
Illinois.
Illinois, that's right. I knew, hey, I had the first letter right. So he's gonna come here, do the transition. We also have advertised our ORC position at our water and wastewater plant. That posting will go for about 2 more weeks or maybe a little bit longer. And then we'll start vetting those applications and those resumes to get somebody permanent into our water and wastewater position. Let's see. That's all that I had written down. Anything, any updates, committee updates, or other thoughts, Jim?
Mike, I do have one request, maybe. You know where the signboard is, the VMS board at the 241 roundabout? Can we talk about?
You're gonna say what I already told Andy. Go ahead.
Can we talk about maybe moving that on the, if you're coming eastbound on Colorado, you don't know if the car is continuing through that roundabout or not. And maybe my trucks are just too tall to see that, but you assume everybody's coming into town. Well, you can't see that transition for a couple seconds through there. Can we maybe put it on the east side of the roundabout up on the apron?
I would like to move it a little bit east, maybe even just east of Gilson. So when people are coming in, because you're right, one, when the sun glares on it, you can't see it then. And that
Right.
we're going around it, you see the one be nice or whatever it is, but you don't get to see that second flip. So I had already discussed this with Andy and John Bordoni. Guess what?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna smoke me a Honda in the big truck today, so.
Yeah.
But
Get that move for sure.
okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
And last but not least, our council retreat is going to be on what is that date, Andy?
May 21st.
Thank you, Chuck. May 21st at Tommy Knockers. We'll start it.
Guys, that's graduation day. That's Clear Creek High School graduation, man. Dude, that's not gonna work.
Is that on? That's a Saturday, isn't it?
Yep. We're
gonna have to change that, Andy.
Yeah, that's gotta get changed. Yeah.
The graduation is Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Saturday, 21st.
The retreat is on Friday.
Oh, the retreat's the 20th.
What's the first?
Right, 21st.
I got it as, yeah.
Yeah, Friday's the 21st.
Okay, so it's Friday.
Friday's the 21st?
Yeah.
No. Really?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Friday the 21st. Yes. So we'll still have it. No graduation that morning.
Just kidding, everybody. It's the 21st. That's Friday.
You knew that, right, Jim?
Whoops.
Okay. Without anything else, good meeting tonight, everybody. And meeting's adjourned. Have a good week. We will talk to you.
Night,
later.
everybody.
Good night, all.
Right.